going? Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Isaac Childres.
I'll wear this the whole time.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get started here. Folks, welcome this morning here at PAX Unplugged. I'm Tom Vasel. I am not here for any other reason to be a fan like the rest of you. I'm assuming most of you are fans of Gloomhaven, or at least you were curious and showed up. Has anyone here completed Gloomhaven and its expansion, and you need more?
Yes.
Has anyone not completed Gloomhaven and its expansion, but you still want more? That's because you're gamers. All right, well, Isaac is here, designer of Gloomhaven, the #1 ranked game on Board Game Geek, winner of multiple awards, and seller of lots of copies. And welcome to the show here, sir. It's your show, actually, so welcome to your own show.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show to you as well, then.
So we're talking about Gloomhaven. What we're going to do here is we're going to talk about, well, I'm going to let him introduce in just a second. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to ask questions. I tried to think like you would, so we have some questions to ask, and we're going to show you some art and different assets from the game as time goes by. But at the end, you'll have a chance to ask questions yourself, so keep thinking about those, and we'll let you know when that time is here. So first of all, why don't you tell us, why are we here? What are we talking about?
We're talking about Frosthaven. Woo! Yeah, which is we're calling it the sequel to Gloomhaven. So it's a whole new campaign, around 100 new scenarios, 16 new characters, a bunch of new monsters and items. It's basically as much content, as much new stuff as Gloomhaven was. So yeah.
So the sequel to Gloomhaven here, so the questions that I'm wanting to know is, can I use characters from Gloomhaven in this? Vice versa. Do I need to play Gloomhaven to play this? How does it fit in that universe?
Yeah. So you can play Gloomhaven beforehand if you want, but you don't have to. You can start with this. So it's a standalone product. You can just start with Frosthaven. The characters are more complicated. So if it's your first time, it might be a little challenging. But I mean, it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, so you can also, if you have Gloomhaven, you can bring over characters from Gloomhaven into Frosthaven, or vice versa if you want to play with the Frosthaven characters in Gloomhaven. So it's fully interchangeable. And there are some other things to cross over. So Frosthaven will have a whole new set of items, but there is a mechanic for bringing items from Gloomhaven to Frosthaven. So you kind of like, when you start a character, you have a certain amount of money that you can use to just buy Gloomhaven items to start with, to sort of bring them into Frosthaven. But Frosthaven is a very remote location, so you can't just like freely buy Gloomhaven items. But there is like an importer that will eventually unlock, and you can like have limited buying power of like the Gloomhaven shop. But then there'll also be a new set of items that you will have in Frosthaven. But resources are a much more valuable thing than money in Frosthaven. So you'll actually have to actually build your items. So there'll be like a crafting system. So you'll get like wood and metal, and then you'll combine them in different ways to make your items in Frosthaven.
Well, that sounds very different already. Now, you mentioned the characters. We got some of the portraits behind us, and I think you're going to show off some of these characters here and tell us about the 6 base characters.
Yeah. So, like Gloomhaven, there'll be 6 starting characters, and we're demoing in the main hall. So you can come by and check out these 6 new characters, but I'll show them off a little bit and sort of talk about what they are. There we go. So first of all, we have the banner spear, which you've already seen. Walking around.
That's the best one.
Yeah, if you don't say that, she'll stab you.
I know.
Wherever she went. Yeah, she's the best one. So the banner spear is, kind of the tank of the group. She's responsible for making sure everyone stays alive. She's very noble like that. She's mostly melee, has some ranged abilities, but like her cool thing is that she has these formation attacks. So it's kind of like an area effect attack where, you see the diagram and you've got like a gray hex where you are and the red hex is where the enemies are, but you also have green hexes where you need allies to be. So you have to make sure you're positioned correctly with your allies in order to make the attack against the enemy. So there's a lot of positioning there, which is really cool.
Is she better in a bigger group then?
Yeah, but she can also make her own allies. So her and the Necromancer, which is the other character on this page, have summons that they can resummon that you aren't lost when you use the card. So if they die, they just go in your discard pile, and then you can get them back and use them again. So she has a really basic summon that, just puts this guy out on the board. He can't actually attack. He's basically just there to help her make her formation. So it works even in a smaller group.
Okay.
And then we have the Necromancer, who's sort of the other summoner. You may recognize her kind of from the Jaws of the Lion announcements when we were going to put her in Jaws of the Lion, but then we decided summons were too complicated for that game. We switched, we sort of modified the artwork, so she's now an Aether instead of a human, because we didn't want 2 humans in the starting 6. But she functions the same way, so she summons undead, which are like the Banner Spear, are not lost, but you lose health when you create these summons. So her resource is kind of her own hit points that you really have to pay attention to because she has low hit points. I think there are a lot of characters in this expansion that sort of have this extra resource that you need to deal with, just to like make things more interesting. So like in this instance, her resource is her health. But we'll talk about some of the other stuff too. So then we also have some miniature sculpts. So this is the Banner Spear miniature. Really focused on stepping up our miniature game. So hopefully people will be excited by that. Just creating more dynamic poses and that stuff. So yeah, we're really excited about that. And we have some of our sculptors up here in the front aisle. So that's that, and then more new characters. So we've got the Deathwalker here, the Valrath Deathwalker on the left. So she's one of my main playtesters. He's really awesome, and this is his favorite character of all time. So I'm really excited about her. So basically, she just creates these shadows on the board. She's kind of like a shamanistic type class that's sort of ushers people into death, ushers them into the beyond after they die. So she likes to kill monsters, and then when she does, it creates these shadows on the board that she can then manipulate and sort of attack from or use to get various bonuses. So that's sort of the resource she's dealing with, is she's got all these shadows on the board that she can move around like a little shadow army. But they're not technically summons, they're just kind of like these, shadows.
She sounds pleasant.
Yeah. So then we've got the Drifter, the Inox Drifter. So this is just an Inox, it's not the Algox, which is what this guy is.
Of course.
Yeah, so the Algox are a threat. Well, we'll talk about them in a bit. So the Drifter is kind of like just a survivalist. He loves just living out in the middle of the wilderness off the land, and so he's just all about kind of sustaining himself and keeping himself alive as long as possible. So he's got a lot of persistent abilities that have charges on them, and they just do basic things like give you bonuses to your melee attacks or range attacks and stuff like that. But as you expend the charges, you also have a bunch of abilities to recharge your charges. So he's kind of just kind of plays with that mechanic of the persistent charges and kind of spends them and gets them back, and you're trying to just balance that mechanic. So that's sort of his resource he's dealing with. And we have a couple of sculpts from this. We kind of tried to make some changes at the last minute, but we didn't quite make them. So these are not the detailed sculpts, but you can kind of see their poses here for those 2 miniatures as well. And all right, and then let's talk about the last 2. So everyone's excited about the Harrower, I hope.
Very cheerful looking.
Oh yeah, I mean they're all cheerful looking. It's a very cheerful
I know,
place.
it's a happy place. Is this 1 person or 2?
Well, so it's a Harrower, so it's a swarm of bugs. So it's like thousands of.
This is from Florida.
Yeah. But this Harrower is special because it's actually it doesn't have a single like collective consciousness. Like it's actually like two consciousnesses kind of like fighting against each other in some sort of like, stable equilibrium. So it kind of switches back and forth between two forms. So we have like kind of a more melee form and a more ranged form. And the way that works is you actually have two separate decks of cards. And you have 7 cards in each deck. And so you have like a little token that you flip over as you switch from form to form. And so like when you're in one form, you can only play cards from this deck. And then some cards in that deck, or some of the actions on that deck will force you to switch into the other form. And then now you've got to pick up this deck and play with that. And so it requires a lot of card manipulation and paying attention to like how many cards you have in each, because you don't want to like switch over this side and then realize, oh, I don't have any cards left in this. Now I've got to do a rest, or I get exhausted. And when you do a long rest, you can choose to switch if you want, but the cards force you to switch back.
How different are the forms? Like, is one stronger than the other?
I mean, they both have the same amount of hit points, but yes, one is more like melee, sort of tanky, and the other one's kind of more like a ranged caster. Yeah.
That's the one I'm going to play as.
It's probably the most complicated. That one was designed by Marcel, who did the Forgotten Circles expansion. So you can imagine it's the most complicated.
Changed my mind.
And then we have the Blinkblade, who is a quattril, and he can manipulate time as any good quattril can. So he's got like a little temporal device on his forearm there. And so he can slow down time or speed up time. He's kind of like the Flash a little bit. And he's got a dagger, and he just like runs around and stabs people and then runs away. That's his thing. And so yeah, he's got this resource of like these time tokens. So going faster is better, but you can't do it all the time. He gets his charges run out, and so he's got to slow himself down to recharge. So yeah, it's basically the mechanic, because at the start of each round, you decide whether you're going to go fast or you're going to go slow. And so if you go fast, you spend a counter. If you go slow, you add a counter. And then each of his cards has abilities on him, but then they also have like bonuses or detriments depending on whether you're going fast or slow. So it might be like an attack 3, but if you're going slow, it's -1 attack, so it's only an attack 2. But if you're going fast, maybe you get to wound them in addition to the attack. So yeah, like all his cards, you basically have like 4 options on each card instead of 2, depending on whether you're going fast or slow. Yeah, so those are the classes.
Those are the 6 new starting characters, and then there's 10 more.
Right. Yeah.
That can be unlocked.
Yep.
Now this is in the world of Gloomhaven.
Yes.
But there's different races in this area.
Yes. So all the starting classes are from races that you are already familiar with. But then there are going to be 3 new races as well. And those 3 new races start out as the threats in the game. And as you go through the game and sort of work to become their friends, or at least like subdue them from destroying the city, you'll unlock classes from those new races as well. So the 3 new threats are the Algox, which are, we'll see it here, yeah. Okay, so the Algox, which are kind of like distant cousins of the Inox, but they're even more primitive and bigger, and they're kind of, just big like ice yetis with horns, and they like to punch you, so you gotta watch out for that. And so they live in the mountains and, very territorial, and so when this new Frosthaven sort of outpost springs up, then they start attacking it. But they've got this really interesting sort of religion to them, where they're actually in 2 separate sects. And one of them are called the Ice Speakers, and one of them are called the Snow Speakers. So they have a different philosophy on how their divine God like speaks to them. One of them thinks that like looking at ice will sort of relay divine messages to them, while the other sect thinks that they need to like look to the snow, like from the so like God is above us, like speaking from above. Whereas,
so they like disagree.
Yeah. So they're like fighting against each other, and so you kind of can befriend them or at least subdue them by kind of like getting in the middle and choosing a side and working against the other one. Yeah. So yeah, you get to choose between ice and snow. Yeah, don't want to give away too many spoilers. I'm going to try to keep this
Oh, I'm just
spoiler
guessing.
light,
I
but
know
that
nothing
was-
about the game. I'm with you guys.
I mean, I want to tell
Nice.
you like all about it, but also we only have an hour, and I don't want to spoil things too much. But that's like you get that in the first couple scenarios. So, and then we have the lurkers, which we're familiar with from the first game. Yeah, I was speaking to some. I didn't realize like how popular the lurkers were. Or maybe it was just like this group of people I was speaking to, but they were like, more lurkers. Oh, this is gonna be amazing. Anyway, so the lurkers live out in the ocean and in the northern sea, and so that's also a big thing because it's Frosthaven is right on the coast, and so they start invading from the sea, and you've got to kind of subdue them. I don't know how much I should say, but basically, like, yeah, there's a whole lurker civilization, lots of different types of lurkers. This one in particular is the lurker wave thrower, so he has like range attacks and stuff, and he can like summon lightning eels from the sea to attack you as well. But yeah, eventually, if you work towards it, you can befriend them and maybe get some lurkers on your side, so you can play as a lurker. They can't like talk normally, but some of them are psychic, so they psychically communicate with the rest of the party, which doesn't actually change mechanics or anything, but that's just my explanation for how you can play as a lurker. And then finally, we've also got some robots.
I'm pretty sure that whoever designed that stepped on a four-sided die. Was
Yeah,
angry and said that this is a new villain.
World's most dangerous four-sided die. Yeah, so I won't say too much about that, but yeah, there's sort of you come to understand that there's kind of robots in the north, kind of like wandering around, causing trouble as well, and so you got to kind of investigate that and see where that leads, and yeah, so that'll be cool too.
So can you give us kind of like an overview of what's the basic story? What's going on? Why are we playing the game?
Yeah, that's important. So Frosthaven is an outpost in the north. So it's kind of like northwest of Gloomhaven. Like if you go west from Gloomhaven, you'll get to the capital, and then you go north from the capital, and then you get to Frosthaven. You have to pass through sort of the combination of the two mountain ranges, the Copper Mountains or Copperneck Mountains and the Imperial Mountains. So you kind of go through this frozen pass that kind of freezes over in the winter. So Frosthaven becomes cut off from the world. But you go up there at the start of the summer because your mercenaries hired to keep the town safe, because there's a lot of trouble going on up there with all these guys, the Algox and the Lurkers and everything. So you go up there as a mercenary trying to help out, and you just initially the story is you're just trying to protect the town, right? So there are all these threats, and you got to kind of explore around and pick different sides and try and figure out how to keep the town safe. And then it kind of develops from there. But Frosthaven is a much smaller town than Gloomhaven, right? It's just a very small outpost. When you first get there, it's actually like mostly destroyed because of the recent Algox attack. And so one of the big things of the game is you get to build up the city like how you want. I talked about resources before and how you can combine them to create items, but you can also use those resources that you find to build buildings. And that's going to unlock different town mechanics to interact with as well. So I mean, one of the things you can build up is the craftsman area. So you get like more recipes for your crafting of items, so you can make better items, and you can actually like combine items with other items to create new items. And so as you build up the craftsman, you get a lot of cool crafting opportunities. There's also an alchemist that you can build up as well. I'm just giving you some of the more basic ones that aren't spoilers. I could give you more, but I will keep it to a few. So the alchemist is really cool because in addition to finding resources, you also get to find herbs as you're running around killing things. And that's how you create potions, is by combining herbs at the alchemist. But it's kind of like a thing where it's like a trial and error. You don't know what the recipes are, and so you say, oh well, I'll combine this herb and that herb, and then you kind of like we're not sure how we want to do it, but basically like peel something off or open a door or something, and then you'll see what the potion is that you made, and then once you know what it is, then you can make more of it.
Can you make bad potions?
Yeah, they're bad potions.
It's not going to bode well.
I mean, you don't have to drink them. You just throw them away or give them to the person who likes bad potions. But that's all I'll say about that.
So you said that the town was attacked and almost destroyed.
Yeah.
Will be attacked. Like, are you have to like strengthen defenses or
Yeah,
fight
yeah.
off these?
So yeah, one of the other things you can do is build up the defenses of the town as well. So there's kind of a destroyed wall you can start building up, and you can start building up the barracks. And so the town has a defense rating, and then so the game also has kind of like a calendar system. You know, I've talked about like coming in the summer and then in the winter things start freezing over. And so basically, yeah, there's 2 seasons, summer and winter, and so you have some time to build the town up, and then eventually, every time you go to a scenario, you sort of progress this calendar, and then eventually you'll run into winter, where you then use a different event deck. So there's like a summer event deck and a winter event deck for both road events and city events. And so you'll start going through this winter event deck, which is like all bad things. So that's when
Good,
that's when
'cause
people
I
start
was
attacking
thinking,
you.
I personally thought the game was too easy, so I'm glad you're making it a little harder.
So the winter is when the Algox and lurkers and everything start attacking your city, and then depending on the defense rating of the city, the bad things happen, or maybe you fend them off.
Great. So you mentioned how you need to get these items and build stuff. Can you still find like artifacts and things like that?
Oh yeah. There's plenty of items you'll find opening chests and things like that. So I just talk about the loot system, which we've also changed. It's kind of the main thing we've changed, like within the actual fighting mechanics, because all that is more or less the same, but the loot system is a little different in that you'll still collect tokens. Monsters will still drop tokens, but they're not money, because money is much less valuable in Frosthaven. So you'll collect these tokens, and then at the end of the scenario, or during the scenario if you want, you exchange the tokens for a card from a loot deck. So what'll happen is at the start of every scenario, you will build this loot deck based on what the scenario is. So it'll tell you like what cards to put in this deck. So if you're fighting in a forest, you might find more lumber in the loot deck than you would in a mountain. And so you'll draw a card from the loot deck, and it could be money, or it could be a resource, or it could be an herb, or it could be something else that's cool.
Like what?
Well, I mean, like items, or maybe special items or secret.
I think you have like a picture of the city here.
Yeah. Is that our next slide? Yeah. Hopefully this shows up pretty well. So that's the new map. So the top half is our traditional world map, where you're going to put stickers down as you unlock new scenarios. We actually have kind of some bigger stickers as well. So like as you discover sort of bigger features of the world that aren't actually on this map, because this is a much less explored region of the world, then you'll put like a big sticker down to kind of change how this looks. So that's your traditional world map. And then we also have another part of the map, which is the city itself, where you'll be putting stickers on that as you build up the city. So you see there's lots of space to build lots of different buildings that all will do different things. Like there'll be a library and an inn and a tavern and all that sort of stuff. But you get to kind of decide how that all plays out. We got a new artist for that. Francesca, I think her last name is Ballard. She does a lot of really cool map work, and we're really happy with working with her.
Now you showed us the 3 new monsters that might become friendly later on. We don't know.
Yeah.
Is there any other monsters you can show us?
Yes. That's the next slide. How did you know?
I'm not reading off anything.
So we've got new monsters. There will be some repeat monsters, so you'll still encounter some of the old monsters, but there's lots of new monsters as well. So this is some of the new undead, right? Because we're up in the north, we gotta have new like frozen undead. So instead of just a living corpse, now on the right we've got the frozen corpse. So it's like a corpse of an Algox. And so he's got like frost breath, and he's got retaliate, because anytime you attack him, you just freeze. And he's going to give you a new status effect that we're introducing called brittle. So he makes you like super cold. And then the next time you suffer damage, you suffer double damage. I got a reaction.
That's what.
But
Just looking at him.
but also, you have access to that status effect as well, some of the characters. So you can do that back to him or another monster. And then the other one on there is the Living Doom. So he's like the most powerful undead. How do we get, there we go. The Living Doom also has a new status effect. So he can summon living spirits based on his health. So you really want to bring down his health or he's just going to like summon
Is he
millions of living
levitating?
spirits. Yeah, he's undead. He can do what he wants.
Okay, I thought.
But he's also got a new status effect called Bane. I'm really excited to talk about this because this has been an issue, is the instant kill mechanic. So this is kind of our solution to the instant kill mechanic is we're introducing a new status effect called Bane. And what it does is when you are baned, at the end of your next turn, when the Bane would be removed, if it hasn't, you can remove it by healing, but if you don't remove it by healing, at the end of your next turn, you'll just suffer 10 damage. And so it's kind of the new instant kill mechanic, but it takes a turn to take effect, and also there's a hit point cap on it, so it just does 10 damage to you. So like if it happens to a character, they're probably gonna have to lose a card. They probably don't want to suffer 10 damage. But you will have the opportunity to bane monsters to sort of instantly kill them. Obviously, it'll be very hard to do that, and it doesn't instantly kill them. It takes a round, and if they have like 30 hit points, it's still not going to instantly kill them. It'll just do.
Just to clarify, you said that this is to fix a problem. Like this is a better thing to happen to us.
Well, yeah. Well, it was so the issue was right that there are certain abilities in Gloomhaven that many people consider overpowered. Because they instantly kill monsters and they're kind of easier to pull off.
Can those people talk to me later on? This is not happening in my campaign.
So this is a new kill mechanic that I feel is more balanced.
All right. Seems nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, but since it's more balanced, I can now give it to the monsters so they can do it back to you.
Yay.
Obviously, the monsters could instantly kill you because that would be no fun. But now they can bane you. And these are some other cool monsters we have. So, of course, we got polar bears. Oh, sorry, it's not up. There we go. We got the polar bears, who are just, even worse cave bears. And then we also have a new race that won't be playable, but we're introducing as a monster called the Abale. These are like fishmen. So some people may be excited about this. If you're fans of Forge War, which you might not even heard of Forge War, but it's the first game I made. Sort of one of the most popular cards in that game was the Fish King invades the docks, and so the Fish King is sort of the king of this race, and he may be making an appearance later. So we're bringing back the Fish King. I know Richard Ham will be excited about that at least.
He's cheering somewhere. Okay, so we've seen more monsters, and you talked about stuff. I heard there's something about puzzles now.
Yes. Yeah, so let's see if I can explain that. It's kind of complicated. Well, not really. Well, at some point in the game, and I also it's kind of spoilery, so I don't want to touch on it too much, but at some point in the game, you will gain access to a book that is kind of similar to the Town Records book, right? And that you kind of have to work towards getting it, and then it'll just be kind of like this extra side story that you can do to sort of get more lore into the game, and just like another thing that you can do, and there might be certain cool things that you get to unlock when you go through it. But how you go through the book is by solving puzzles. So I kind of see it as very similar to like an exit game or an unlock game, but that you play over the course of your entire campaign. And so it's not something where you're just trying to solve it as fast as possible. It'll give you some clues that will lead you to various aspects of the game itself. So you might have to look closely at artwork, or maybe do some other things. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it'll direct you to looking at various aspects of the thing. Like you might need to unlock this certain building, and that'll sort of give you more information that will let you solve the whatever puzzle you're working on, and then that will direct you if you solved it correctly, you'll get a number, which will direct you to a section in the scenario book, and then from there it'll tell you, yeah, you did it, and you get to like turn the next page and go to the next puzzle. So you're basically like solving a series of puzzles that are informed by everything else in the game. And so if you don't know how to solve a puzzle, or you're not sure what it's directing you to do, maybe you just play the game a little more until you've figured that out. So I don't want to go too spoiler here, but you know, there is a big puzzle in Gloomhaven, and one of the main feedbacks I got from that was just like there was no feedback in the puzzle, right? It was just like there were these clues everywhere, but you had no idea whether you were doing it right or doing it wrong, and it was kind of like very abstract, and some people didn't like that. So this is kind of like the answer to that, and the game is going to give you feedback on whether you're doing it right.
Got it. So I come out of Gloomhaven. Most people here, I'm assuming, have played Gloomhaven at some point. How much do I have to learn to play this? It's pretty easy to jump in, is what I'm asking.
Well, so it's going to be similar to Gloomhaven, right? So it's going to throw you in there, right? So, but you don't have to. I mean, you know, the combat mechanics are all the same. So, I mean, if you haven't played Gloomhaven, you'll have to learn how to play Gloomhaven. And then the town mechanics are sort of introduced to you over time, so that really shouldn't be much of an overhead. So, I mean, I would say it's, you know, a similar learning curve to Gloomhaven.
But this is the second major I mean, you did the expansion, and we've announced the beginner game.
Yeah.
So how have things progressed from that original one? How have you learned anything from the first that you're putting into the second one here?
Well, yeah. So, so we're finding things like we talked about with the puzzles and everything. And then the other thing is we are, so, you know, there was Forgotten Circles, where we tried the new thing of sort of breaking up the scenarios into various sections. And I think there were definitely like successes there, but then there were also problems with just like how little information we gave you up front. Like, I really like the section system of kind of breaking things up so you don't necessarily see everything up front. And so things are surprises, and then we can sort of hide things better. And so I really like that system, but I think we're going to sort of take that and learn from the feedback we've gotten and just try to give you more information up front. So on the front page, so we're still doing that section system, but on the front page of the scenario, we'll give you like everything you need to know to set it up, right? So you won't have to do any setup in the middle, which I think was the main problem with Forgotten Circles. Was, you know, halfway through, now you've got to, oh, we need these monsters, and we got to pull them out and add them, and because we didn't pull them out beforehand because we didn't know we needed them. So yeah, we're going to stick to that system of giving you, you know, surprises, but not having you have to do surprise setup, I guess is the main thing.
Now, this is going to be the same size as Gloomhaven, same, like, basically length of campaign?
Yeah. So it'll probably be around 100 scenarios or something around there, yeah, just like Gloomhaven.
Yeah, next time we'll ask how many people finish both games, and we'll see. So can people buy this now at your booth?
No.
Right. And here it is. No, it's, so how are people going to be able to get it?
Right, so it is coming to Kickstarter in March. We are doing a Kickstarter. And then ideally, if everything goes according to plan, you know, it should be delivered in less than a year from the Kickstarter. So we're looking at like early 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, you'll be able to go by the booth and then, like you said, check it out. We want to open this up now. Unless there's something else you want to say, we're going to open this up to questions.
No, yeah, I think, yeah, give more time for questions.
So we got two microphones, one on each side. If you can just line up behind those, we'll just jump back and forth between them. So I guess we'll start over here since you're ready.
Okay. First brief question is, can we assume Frosthaven is too cold for oozes?
I wouldn't make that assumption. I love oozes.
I know.
Oozes forever.
My other question is, here, there is, I'm losing my mic, there we are. There's a thing you can do in the main storyline of Gloomhaven where it seems like you're doing a bad thing and at the end you kind of get rewarded for it and there are no immediate repercussions?
Sure.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but
I mean, there
will
there are a
we
lot of
maybe
things
see
like
some
that.
of that
Yeah.
in
yeah.
Frosthaven?
I mean, there's always moral ambiguity, right? And sometimes you do bad things and get away with it.
Okay.
Sometimes you kill entire
Not real life kids.
civilizations.
Don't do that.
Thank you very much.
All right, over here.
So actually, kind of following up on that, one of the issues I keep running into is with the reputation system, I often don't feel like the choices tend to be very, well, do you just want to be really evil or do you want to be really good? And there's often not well, if you're playing a good party and you have like a high reputation, here's like, you should be evil because you might get this really good thing. I never feel tempted really by the option outside of just like, well, I guess I feel evil today.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that we are working on the event system. I mean, we're working on the events to make them more dynamic and give better options.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is I often don't feel like, or sometimes I'll pick an option and I'm like, oh wow, that was like way more evil than I thought it was going to. I thought I was just gonna like chase that person down and like hold them for the police, and instead I like murdered them in the street. And it's like, oops.
Yeah.
I
What
guess
are you
I'm evil
teaching
now.
people to do?
So.
No, that's understandable. I mean, it is limited, but yeah, we're gonna try to, within those limits, make them better. Yeah.
All right, before we do any more questions, just real quick, remember as you ask these questions, not everyone here has played the whole or finished the campaign, so don't spoil it for everyone else if you can. All right, Joe, back over here.
I was just wondering if you could talk about, relative to the original Gloomhaven map, where is Frosthaven in that map? Is it off of the map? Is it somewhere in the map? We're extending the world, or?
Yeah, so we're extending the world. So if we go back to the map, maybe it'll show up. Maybe. I don't know who controls this.
You don't. All right, there we go.
Okay. All right. So if you see, the mountain range along the bottom of the world map are the Copperneck Mountains, which are kind of in the north of Gloomhaven, right? So if you kind of go down, if you look in the very bottom right corner, you can kind of see there's like a split in between the two mountains. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the Dead Pass, which if you go south from there, you'll go along the stone road, like through the mountains and down the stone road, which is on the Gloomhaven map. So it's south of that, but also a little to the east is what the Gloomhaven map is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Hi. Can we expect another pie eating video, assuming the Kickstarter campaign is a success?
A pie eating video. I mean, it's not out of the question. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
I'm a free spirit.
All right, first off, I just want to say, Night Shroud Gang, what's up? Elite Killing Machines, woo! 2 questions, one serious, one's kind of a joke. First question, coming from Gloomhaven and all the hours you put into the design principles and everything you crammed into that massive box I like to do squats with, what are you taking away from that and looking at with Frosthaven and saying, like, it's your biggest learning point, and you're like, this is what I wanted to change, this is what I want to improve, this is what will take Frosthaven somehow from being the #1 game on Board Game Geek. Frosthaven's going to beat that out. What's your plan for that?
Well, I think of, like, the main thing that I wanted to add, and I think was missing from Gloomhaven, at least for me, was kind of that more, like, town building, like town management aspect. So that's what we're trying to focus on with Frosthaven.
Awesome. And second question, according to road event cards, how hasn't the entirety of Gloomhaven been completely overrun and killed by bears? Because every time I start a scenario where I encounter a bear, I'm like halfway dying going into it. So.
Well, bears can't climb walls, I think is the issue.
Yep. What about Frosthaven?
Well, it depends on how tall you build your fence.
Thank you.
Hey guys, so my question is, you mentioned that there might be someone who wants bad potions. We're not going to get into that, but you said you can give them the potions. Is trading going to be a thing, items, or is it going to be like money? Can you give items to people?
So no, you still can't trade items. But like when you create the potion, you then decide who gets it. But then whoever gets it, keeps it.
Okay, and also I noticed that the necromancer's in this one, but originally was announced for the Jaws. Is there?
Yeah.
What was your process with deciding to do all that?
Yeah. So what we did, so I had designed the characters for Jaws of the Lion, and then we had a design retreat. Where we took it to a cabin and like just played it for a week straight, and sort of in that I decided that the summoning mechanics, just in general, like summoning, I think was a little too complicated for what we were trying to accomplish with that product, which was try to introduce more casual gamers to it, and summoning can be very complicated, just in the fact that you have to really understand monster mechanics very well. But also it can be a negative experience, especially like if you're not doing it well, right? So if you put out a summon and it dies immediately, and then you just feel like you did nothing, it was more of negative of an experience than we wanted for that product.
Thanks.
Hi there. Really enjoyed the game. Very good job, obviously.
Thanks.
So you mentioned the new Bane mechanic was replacing the instant kill mechanic.
Yeah.
Is that going to be retroactively put on the classes in Gloomhaven, or are they going to still be able to do, crazy burlap sack boy instant kill elite things?
Burlap sack boy. I could say maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about it.
Okay,
but,
cool.
Yeah.
And then really quick, you mentioned that the loot tokens are now represent resources.
Yeah.
Should we expect to see more loot tokens kind of on the ground in the beginning of scenarios then, if there's more stuff to kind of like pick up? Because a lot of money sitting on the ground really doesn't make sense, but a bunch of like wood sitting on the ground somewhere makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there might be a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask if charging elements is still going to be a large aspect of the game, and I assume there's going to be maybe a lot more ice in this one, and if like fire would be stronger, light against the undead would be stronger, and just about the elements.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, elements will definitely still be a big part of it. I mean, we do want to keep it balanced, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of tempting. You got a bunch of frost monsters. You want them all to generate ice and use ice. But, I think that becomes boring a little bit. So all elements are tried to be, equally represented.
Thanks.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to say go Boilermaker.
Yeah.
I have a question: why did you transition from being a physicist to designing your own board games, and how was that process?
I just got really tired with physics. That's really the answer. And I love board games and was doing it as a hobby. And I decided to just try and make my own board game, just for fun. And it kind of snowballed into, let's put it on Kickstarter and see how it does. And then that was Forge War, and that did really well. And so then decided to make another game, and then that was Gloomhaven, and now here we are.
How long was that process of designing your own?
I guess I really started designing Forge War probably like in my last year of grad school, or maybe even a little before that, like a year and a half or something. So yeah, like I put it on Kickstarter like while I was still in grad school, which nobody tell my professor. But yeah, and so basically by the time when I was graduating, I kind of had this decision, like, or before I graduated, while I was like, do I look for jobs or do I try and do game design? And I decided to try and do game design, and it worked out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, I was wondering if there are any interesting tweaks to the combat rules or retaliate, anything like that. Is it pretty much the same as base?
Yeah, other than adding like some new status effects and stuff. Yeah, we tried to keep the combat mechanics the same.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I noticed in the metal loot coin set, you've added a 3 loot coin. In Frosthaven, can we expect to see a 3 damage token?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, yeah, we're planning on doing that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Hi. First of all, your game is brilliant. We love it. And since this one seems much, much harder, do we get more cards that we get to hang on to and more health?
Yes, please.
Which seems to be important.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. It's harder to what?
Can we have more cards?
More cards.
What kind of cards do you
Like
want?
our base cards, you only get like 10 or 14 or how
want-
many cards you can hold
I
in your
got you. I
hand.
got you. No.
No. How about health? Is our health going up any?
Sorry, what?
Health.
No, it's the same. So yeah.
Bummer.
So the highest health you're gonna have at level 1 is 10, or if you're a necromancer, you get 6 because.
So we die
I'm
very
a jerk.
fast. Thank you.
I appreciate you trying.
Well, I mean, there is the Geminate. I don't know if I said the name of the hero class, but it's the Geminate. They have 14 cards, right? 7 in each hand. So I guess it increases a little bit. That's more than any class in Gloomhaven.
I'll be using them for that reason.
You don't seem satisfied. Okay.
No, I just want to walk in and kill everything. Yes, sir.
Hi. So I have a couple of questions about character design. Is there any changes to kind of the achievement quests, like through the dungeons, as well as the personal character quests? Because I know through our campaign, one of our characters had such a tough time trying to fulfill theirs, and it didn't really feel connected to the character. Also, is there more fleshed out for the characters to give them more personality, to get them more relatable towards any of the events, any of the city events specifically, or anything like that? And also, is there any more customization towards the decks, the modifier decks that each class has?
Okay, so that was a lot of questions, and they were all really great. I'm glad that you asked them. So, yes, the personal quests, first of all, that system is going to be changed. Right, so it's not just a big deck that you randomly draw one from, and it might take you forever, or it might take you a reasonable amount of time. So that you'll start with a much smaller deck of things that you will be able to accomplish in a reasonable time at the start of the game, and then as you unlock more things, more cards will be added to that deck. So the cards that, because of the things that you unlocked, now that's a thing that you can now do in a reasonable amount of time. So now you get that quest and are able to do it in a reasonable amount of time. Does that make sense? Right. So be unlocking personal quests as you go, like as they become reasonable. So it's not like, oh, now I have to do 2 scenarios in the Lingering Swamp, and I have to wait 50 scenarios before I find a Lingering Swamp scenario. So yeah. Okay, and that was what I was focusing on, because that's definitely what I want to talk about. But I forgot your other questions.
Yeah. So it changes to like the modifier decks.
Oh yeah, so
classes?
modifier decks are, I mean, it's the same system, right? So you have perks, and you get to swap cards in and out. You're talking about events, or no? You're talking about like more connection to your characters.
Right.
That will be similar to Gloomhaven, right? So you have a description on the back, and then the personal quest is going to be somewhat randomized, right? So it's not going to be tied to that character. It's just going to be whatever card you draw. I don't know. I mean, maybe some people don't identify with that, but I find it to be like an interesting system where you're allowed to sort of you have a little you have a little kick about like what your incentives and goals are, but you kind of like combine that with the character and sort of kind of come up with your own backstory to some extent. And then as far as the events, there will be a similar system, but we're probably going to change it a little bit to where, like outcomes of events might depend on what character class you have. Or we're actually probably going to switch it where we've just been talking about this, so it's not guaranteed, but like switching it to like each character will have specific traits, right? So it won't be like based specifically on that class, but it'll be like, if you have a strong character, like this event will happen. Or this outcome to the event will happen.
Yeah, and then changes to like the dungeon deck where you get the check marks. Like it was easy to open up a door, but like trying to.
Oh yeah, we'll be introducing new battle goals that will be more balanced as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a question about summons. I know they were really good early level in Gloomhaven, but we felt like they didn't really scout well into later levels and difficulties. Is there anything that you made them or did to change to make them a more competitive choice in your deck?
Yeah, I mean, like we're talking about, like the summons that you can resummon, right? So you don't like summon them, they die, and oh, now I've lost that card and got nothing for it. So those types of changes. So yeah, I mean, we're taking feedback. I mean, you know, we have, yeah, well, that's all I'll say about that.
Thank you.
So I noticed you didn't say anything about enhancements. Is the enhancement system going to remain pretty much the same now that you have no money or less money? Are you going to need different things to enhance, or?
I think yes, the enhancement system will stay the same. So, I mean, you will still have some money, and it will be unlocked over the course of the game. So you won't have it at the beginning, but you'll ideally unlock it like once you have built up some amount of money and can actually use it.
Where does Frosthaven take place time-wise compared to the Gloomhaven campaign?
So it's kind of set afterwards. Yeah, well, it is set afterwards. It doesn't quite matter for the most part because there's not a whole lot of interaction. But there will be some tie-over things. You know, I could mention that a lot of people, especially online, are like, "All right, we're finally going to get that other, you know, cipher set to solve those things that no one knows how to solve." Unless you're like a cryptographer, and some people have solved it. But yeah, so those things, yeah, are the things that will be brought over to kind of continue stories. But for the most part, you know, they're separate stories.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm actually new to the game. I'm just kind of looking at getting into it.
Cool.
And so, from what I've been seeing online, it's kind of difficult to actually learn all the stuff all at once. I was wondering if this is like an equally difficult way to get into the game. I understand that the difficulty of the actual game itself is harder, but just getting into it, is it any harder?
Yeah, so it'll be about the same difficulty to get into with Gloomhaven, and that's what we're trying to solve. Well, I mean, I don't know, we haven't worked on we might introduce a tutorial system in this game like we're doing with Jaws of the Lion. But yeah, that's what Jaws of the Lion, which is the smaller version that's going to be coming out in September. That's sort of the goal of that, is to try to better like teach people the game in a much smaller format, so then you can decide like whether you want to move on to something bigger.
Yes, sir.
The original Gloomhaven was very sort of more on the semi-cooperative than the cooperative end in terms of players working with each other.
Well, yeah,
depending
on your players.
More mercenary. Like you can't trade items, you can't sell things between each other. Is there?
Yeah.
With being in this more difficult situation, and there's a town you're trying to build up, is there going to be anything that makes it easier to be more collaborative with the other players?
So yeah, I mean, the town building is more collaborative. So like as you collect resources, you just kind of pool them all together. It's not like, oh, this is my wood and that's your metal. Well, I mean, okay, there is that, but but you'll be able to combine them, right? If you want to, right? So you can pool your resources to build a building. It's not like I have to have all the resources to build that building. I can combine them with yours. So that adds a more collaborative aspect. But again, like you're all still kind of, you know, dark, brooding jerks, and you like having your own things. So yeah, it's mostly the same.
Thanks for such a great game. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about the town building aspect in this game. Do you have any plan going forward with Frosthaven for kind of like a recharge pack, so that like if you want to play the game again, building up the city and other stuff?
Have you finished Gloomhaven?
I have finished Gloomhaven.
Okay, cool.
I'm working on the expansion right now.
How many people here have finished the base game of Gloomhaven?
All right, cool. Yeah.
All right. I applaud you.
Yeah. So no, that is something we're talking about. I can't give specifics at this point, but yeah, I think at some point we'll start doing like recharge packs and stuff.
Awesome. Cool.
Hey there. So to follow up on a previous question, in terms of the semi-cooperative play, going the opposite direction, were there any kind of thoughts of making it more asymmetrical, possibly antagonistic between characters?
More antagonistic.
As a potential way of kind of shifting things around a little bit. That was one. A real quick one after that would be, given the proximity of the holiday season, is there any sort of update you can give us on the merch store and possibly Mind Thief plushies, maybe? Or, yeah.
Well, so I mean, I briefly toyed with the idea of like a PvP mode, like during the original Gloomhaven Kickstarter, and when I started to sit down and try and like work that out, it didn't really work. Like initiative became like too much of a thing. Like if you went first, it was so much better. Like because and so it just ended up like not working out like balance wise, and like having people fight each other. I haven't really revisited it since then, so yeah, we don't have any plans for that. As far as the merch store, yeah, we're going to be getting that up before. We're trying hard to get it up as soon as possible. We've been really focused on PAX, and but now that PAX, well, once PAX is over, that's the next focus. We're gonna try to get it up. Yeah.
Awesome,
as
thank
far
you.
as Mind Thief plushies, I don't think we're gonna have those. Yeah, but we are working on that, but that's a longer process.
It really is a lot of work.
But we'll have pins and metal coins, T-shirts and pint glasses and all sorts of cool stuff.
I apologize, we're going to have to make this the last question, but you can still come by the booth later on and ask them all you want.
Great. So when it comes to the calendar, you said there's a summer and winter. Is it just 1 year? Is it just those 2 seasons? And how far does it progress with each scenario?
Yeah, so there are multiple years. So basically you can keep playing as much as you want. But yeah, and it'll just continue to go through that cycle of kind of nicer things happening and then more terrible things happening. And
Can we just hibernate over the winter?
no, you gotta keep your town safe. And then I forgot your other question, but I
How
wanted to
far
answer.
does it progress each scenario?
So currently this might change depending on more playtesting, but so basically every time you finish a scenario, or set of scenarios, right? So there will still be like linked scenarios. So like you'll do one and right after the other you'll do the other one. Each set of scenarios will progress 1 time unit, and there's like 15 time units per season.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Isaac. You shared a lot of information today. We're really excited about this upcoming thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. So happy to see everyone excited about it.
So when we're done here, if you have questions for him, go to his booth to find him. It's 3131. You can ask him all the questions there. And don't forget the Kickstarter starts in
March.
Thank you, guys.